Hello, welcome to day 2 of the American Military and American Public University System, Active Minds Chapter, Suicide Prevention and Awareness Symposium. Day 1 was on September 17th. So if you missed that, no worries, we will be sharing out our YouTube and website so that you can find those recordings later should you like to listen back to them. And if you are having trouble hearing, you can indicate that, but just for a mic check, can somebody give me a thumbs up if you can hear me to make sure that I am being heard? Okay, I got a couple there. All right, I'm going to go ahead and introduce you to Dr. Lulu, the amazing Dr. Lulu. I'm going to read a little bit of her biography here, and then I'm going to turn it over to her for her presentation on suicide in the LGBTQ plus youth and how we can help. So Dr. Lulu, AKA Mamatrician, is a board certified pediatrician and mom of 3 sons. She is proudly Nigerian born and a youth suicide prevention activist. She is CEO of teenalive.com and Dr. Lulu's Youth Health Center, both dedicated to youth suicide prevention. She is a TEDx, United Nations, and Global Pan-African speaker and a 3-time best-selling author, as well as freelance writer. She speaks mostly about youth trauma and youth suicide. A former lieutenant colonel in the United States Air Force, she completed medical school at Ahmadu Bello University Teaching Hospital, Zaria, Kaduna State, Nigeria, and her residency at Howard University Hospital, Washington, D.C. She was the medical director for the largest minority-owned pediatric practice in Lancaster and Chester County, South Carolina, prior to commissioning into the Air Force, and is a now proud veteran. A certified life coach, she focuses mainly on parents of LGBTQ plus children, helping them accept, protect, nurture, and support their children so they can thrive and flourish in their lives without judgment or limitations. As a mother of a non-binary child, she calls herself an LGBTQ plus activist and draws attention to the plight of LGBTQ plus kids, particularly transgender children, especially with regards to their high rate of suicide. She has been featured on local affiliates such as ABC, CBS, and NBC, and her articles have been published in blackpast.org, Parents Magazine, Washington Post, and many other syndicated media outlets. She has testified at the Texas House of Representatives and is a Goodwill Ambassador of Nigerians in the Diaspora Commission. Lastly, she is currently working on her 4th and 5th books that should be coming out by September 2021, an anthology about immigrant women, a guide for parents of LGBTQ plus children, and she hosts her own show on Facebook and YouTube and moderates her own Facebook group and room in Clubhouse. She can be found on Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram, Twitter, and lives in San Antonio, Texas. I will share her contact info in the chat and take it away, Dr. Lulu.
Yay. Buenas tardes, buenos dias, depending on where you are. I'm going to start my presentation. So if I have any questions, please just leave them in the chat. I know you know that. And I can't see you, but Ree, can you just give me a thumbs up if it's in play mode? Yes? Oh, no, not thumbs up. Say something because I can't see you.
Yes, it's working fine. Go for it.
All right, so suicide and the LGBTQ plus child. I know the title is a little bit different from what it says. It was just too many words to put in. So I just used this one. But I'm very, very excited to be here. And yes, I do speak 8 languages fluently, so I might just switch into some language at any point in time. So for the icebreaker, have you lost a family member to suicide, or do you have a family member in the queer space? Can someone please type in the chat, and Ree, if you could help me just read out what they're saying. So don't be shy. I'm not one of those speakers that's just talking. I'm usually engaging my audience as much as possible so I can stay awake. So I see 2 comments. Ree, could you just read them to me, please? And thank you.
Yes, we have yeses, lost an uncle to suicide, a family member in LGBTQ. I lost my grandfather. Dr. Ratliff, I know, lost someone as well. So several yeses.
Very good. So first of all, thank you for being vulnerable enough to share that. While I have not lost anyone that we know of to suicide on my family side, I have actively been suicidal. I have a child who has been suicidal as a result of what we're going to talk about today. And I've lost patients, I've lost friends in the medical space to suicide. And it's just a thing. At this point, I think it's safe to say it's a pandemic. So my talk usually is raw, and so it will trigger strong emotions. I'm just going to let you know right now, and I will not be upset if you feel a need to leave my talk. Thank you so much. So the objectives today, we're going to create awareness for the current up-to-date statistics in the queer space. And I like to use the word queer. It's just easier than LGBTQ+. So bear with me on that one. And it is actually a thing now. We have claimed back the word queer, so it's now good. To illustrate the dangers of lack of acceptance of the queer kids, to show steps that we could take to help, and then to share resources and how to connect with more. So who am I and what's my why? So believe it or not, I am 52 years young. I like to say that I'm a queen-ager. I am also everything that Ree said, including the one voice from the African diaspora for real, who is doing what I'm doing. Why am I doing this? After 30 years of being a pediatrician, and after 30 years of helping kids, last summer, my own child, who was graduating with the top honors from Stanford, during the presentation, the gentleman kept saying, they this and they that, and they this and they that. I'm like, dude, aren't you the only one winning the award? Who are these other people that he's talking about? And then my middle son said, Mom, I think it's because Papa is non-binary. I'm like, what is that? What is that? What is non-binary? This is me after knowing that they have been gay their whole life since they were, 9 months I've known. But last summer, this hit me from nowhere. I'm like, what is it? And so I realized that if I can struggle with this, then there are other people out there who are struggling, who are also parents. And as a pediatrician who has owned my own practice for high risk or at-risk kids, I realized that I can work all I want on these kids, but they're going to go back home to their parents. And if the parents are
all right, so from my top of the table, we look ahead.
If the parents are not with it, then we got a problem. So that's why I decided to do what I'm doing. So we're going to sit back, relax, and enjoy this video footage.
To Sunday, when people will fill the streets of New York City for one of the largest annual Pride marches in the world. Many of this year's events will also be virtual. The New York City Pride Parade is a massive celebration inspiring the fight for LGBTQ plus equality. It began after the Stonewall Uprising in 1969, when police raided a gay bar in the city. Pride celebrations are also taking place in other cities this month. We spoke with the parents of LGBTQ plus kids and adults about their journeys and how they are proud as well.
This is my favorite picture of Namdi. That's my baby, all up in their glory. When they were 16, they came out as gay, but when they were graduating from Stanford last summer, I was made to understand that they were non-binary and their preferred pronouns are they, them, theirs. I was a little shocked and even maybe a little scared. What does that mean? I had to quickly get with the program.
We knew that Natalie was discovering something about herself. At about 12 or 13, she came up and said, how would I feel if she was a lesbian? We didn't have any problem. Cooper is gender nonconforming, which means the way he expresses himself to the world is what we stereotypically call female. But he's very adamant he's a boy.
Magdi came up to me and said that she kind of liked boys and girls. We have another son who had told us like 2-3 years before that he was gay, and he was shocking. We got to the point of saying, hey, they're our children, and no matter what they are, we love them, we respect them, and we're going to accept them the way they are.
Everything that I wanted for my daughter to succeed in life, she can still have. Just because she's not going to have a husband, she'll have a wife instead. Doesn't mean that she can't have everything that she wants.
Quererlos, entenderlos, porque son nuestros hijos y ellos no decidieron venir a nacer en este mundo, ¿no?
The newborn picture I took of him, he's wearing a blue onesie and he has a football next to him. In my mind, I had Cooper going on the same journey as my older son. Having a child like Cooper has really made me realize that our children are born the way they are.
If your child comes out to you as queer, then you should be glad and thankful that you've created a safe space in your heart and in your home.
The world can be kind of hard on you sometimes, especially when people think you're different.
Homophobia is real, transphobia is real, lesbophobia, all those things are real. But your love and your understanding and your acceptance, to me, is a lethal weapon against those things.
I wish that everybody would respect them as human beings.
40% of children like mine attempt suicide. I decided that I was not going to be my child's first bully, that I was going to be there to support him and make sure that he knew that he was going to survive and thrive.
I'm proud of Namdi because not only have they challenged me, they've also taught me. What I do is empower my child to go out every day and just have no apologies for being bold and black and beautiful. Yo soy una madre orgullosa de todo lo que planeé se ha realizado.
Magdi has been a productive citizen, a very loving daughter, and she has made us grandparents.
I love her creativity, love her confidence. I really do love the fact that she is who she is and she doesn't let anybody tell her differently. Cooper is sassy and he is smart and he is kind and he really just embraces life for what it is.
My name is Rafael Hurtado.
My name is Magdalena Hurtado.
And we are the proud parents of 3 LGBTQ children, including Magdi and my grandson.
My name is Jennifer Solomon. I'm the proud parent of Cooper.
My name is Dr. Lulu, and I'm the proud parent of my young adult, Namdi.
My name is Christy Sanchez, and I'm a proud parent of Natalie.
How lucky and blessed are these kids to have parents like that?
They so are.
Yeah.
It is. It's really wonderful to see how supportive they are. And I love what the one parent said, the doctor who said love and understanding is a lethal weapon.
Yeah. You know, parents have expectations for their kids no matter what. And you just have to realize they are who they are.
They are who they
Get out of the way. Just get out of the way.
All right. And we'll take
Oh,
All right, so for my top of the table, we look.
So let's give a round of applause to all of those parents who are supporting their kids in spite of all of that craziness out there, honey. And you know you have arrived when the anchor uses your sound bite. What? I was like, no, he didn't. Yes, he did. So, let's talk about some suicide rates, shall we? I love what Cooper's mother said. She said, I did not want to be my child's first bully. I want to say that again for those at the back. I did not want to be my child's first bully. Let's remember that. So suicide rates, all youth, and if you don't know this yet, suicide is the second leading cause of death for children aged 10 through 34. That's all kids in middle school, all kids in high school, all kids in college, most young adults who are leaving college, and maybe even doctors and residents as well. So when you hear doctors are killing themselves, it's because it is real, it's a real thing. I can speak for doctors because I'm one, okay? So that's all youth versus LGBTQ plus youth. Of course, if suicide is the second leading cause of death in all youth, it's also the second leading cause of death in LGBTQ plus youth. It's second only to, get this, accidents. I have a podcast called Suicide Pages. Look it up. In that podcast, I interview more than 200 human beings, and almost all of them said the same thing. They wanted to make their suicide look like an accident. So if that's the case, and the numbers are telling us accidents is suicide is second only to accidents, and people want to make their suicide look like accidents, I think you know where I'm going with that. LGBTQ plus youth versus gender nonconformists like Cooper, like my child. They have the highest rate of suicide amongst all of the LGBTQ plus kids. We're going to look at why in a minute. Strong stuff. So in the next 20 seconds, according to the WHO's prediction from 2020, somebody somewhere has died by suicide. 20 seconds is a new norm. And we all know that suicides, most of them are not reported. So in the time I've been speaking, how many 20 seconds is that? Just so you can see the burden of this problem, okay? Then, because numbers matter, 5.6% of US adults who care to tell the truth are in the queer space. 52% of the youth, all youth are in the queer space. So that's more than half. So your child is likely more than not likely to be in the queer space. And this is only those who responded. 7.6% of those kids, of the people that were asked the questionnaire, did not respond. 7.6% of them abstained from responding. And you know what? When someone has pleaded the fifth or doesn't want to say anything, silence means what? So 52% of youth are queer. So you need to check it before you wreck it, right? 52% is a lot of people. 16% of the Gen Zers, actually it's 15.9, but I made it 16, why not? As at February 2021, are in the queer space. 16%, almost 20, almost 1 in 5. And you and I know that most of the homeless kids, 1/3 of them is what they say, but for me, I feel like it's most of them are queer. So 1 in 3 homeless youth is in the LGBTQ plus space. That's why my nonprofit is called the Lulu's Angels Foundation. It's going to be building a house or having a home for homeless LGBTQ plus youth. 75 to 90% of these kids are bullied at school. So that's why Cooper's mom saying she didn't want to be the first bully makes a lot of sense. Some people say 40% like Cooper's mom said, but it's actually 42% of these kids in the last 12 months said they seriously considered suicide. 42%. And that's the breakdown. 31% of them are Indigenous, 21% are Black, almost twice the number of white at 12%. Latinos, they're not doing too badly at 18%, and others, Asians, Nigerians, whoever, right? Come in at 18% also. So this is my TED Talk. One of the things I said I was going to do for my, I call my lockdown legacy from last year was land a TED Talk. And you know what? I believe in the laws of attraction. So this is my TED Talk from September 2020. Enjoy. Hopefully it will play. Good.
20 seconds. That's how long I've been standing here silent. And according to WHO's predictions for the year 2020, in that time, someone somewhere has died by suicide. And the next person might be your child. In 2017, the WHO declared adolescent suicide a global public health crisis. In the year 2020, the American Academy of Pediatrics declared youth suicide a national and a global public health crisis. In the next 12 minutes, we're going to discuss youth suicide and try to understand why our kids kill themselves. And I'll teach you 3 things you can do to help curb that pandemic, no pun intended. But let me first state that this talk might trigger some strong emotions in some of us. That said, people ask me all the time, why did I become a pediatrician? And I say it's simple. I love kids. Then I had kids. And between their boyish shenanigans and sibling rivalry, I realized that I can't protect my kids from childhood trauma, especially numero tres over there. Like their parents' divorce, or the effect of the domestic abuse their mother endured, or from who I am as a result of my own childhood trauma. You see, you can't see by looking at me, but when I was 9 years old, I was lured into a cornfield by a friendly adult neighbor. I remember him pushing me onto the ground and laying on top of me. I can still feel the grass and the leaves scratching my skin, the smell of raw corn, the taste and grittiness of sand in my mouth and between my teeth as I tried to scream, but no sound came out. You know, I never really talk about that. Most people don't know about that. Like most adults, I'm largely silent about the traumas that I've endured, like the near daily bullying in elementary school on the bus, or racial profiling in America, or my rape in medical school. But one cold November morning in 2015, I swear all the ghosts of my trauma's past were chasing me down a highway in San Antonio, Texas. I was going at over 85 miles an hour. My thoughts and my heart were racing just as fast. I had no seatbelt on. The rooftop of my convertible was down. I was trying to go see God. I was looking for an opening. Anyone here ever heard about ACEs or adverse childhood experiences, or AKA childhood trauma? If you haven't, let me explain. In 1995, the Center for Disease Control and Kaiser Permanente studied 17,000 adults for 2 years. They were looking for the effect of physical, sexual, emotional, and other traumas sustained during childhood. And their studies showed that indeed, childhood trauma does cause significant medical conditions, including mental health challenges and suicide in some, in later adult life. But what about a child that's currently undergoing trauma? What happens to them? What's the first thing you think about when you hear about a suicide? Mental illness, depression, the obvious low-hanging fruit. While depression certainly increases the rate of suicide, in children, we must examine the underlying causes of said depressive behavior. Because as far as I know, no child was born sad and depressed and trying to kill themselves. Something happened. In the past few years, in the United States at least, prescription strength antidepressant use has nearly quadrupled. And in that time frame, suicide rates have continued to soar. How do we reconcile that? And so my argument is that mental anguish and not mental illness is at the crux of most suicides. And in children, trauma is the epicenter. In the form of bullying and child abuse and domestic violence and racism and police brutality and toxic relationships, none of which prescription strength medications can fix. You know, when I started working with at-risk youth, I realized that kids that kill themselves are not really simply depressed. Oh no. Amongst other things, they have been betrayed by systems that allow other kids to bully them and adults to prey on them like I was. Betrayed by parents and caregivers who, for the most part, miss the signs, which, by the way, 4 out of 5 teens who attempt suicide leave a sign. And a prior suicide attempt is the strongest risk factor for a suicide death. Did you know that suicide is second only to accidents as the leading cause of death for kids aged 10 through 34? Or that African-American kids aged 5 through 12 are twice as likely as their white counterparts to die by suicide? or that LGBTQ youth, particularly trans youth and indigenous youth across the globe, all have a high rate of suicide attempt? One word: trauma. Yes, self-loathing, low self-worth, and negative intrusive thoughts are the key features in the suicide notes of his victims. And so you ask Dr. Lulu, what's up with that? Why is it happening? I thought you'd never ask. You know? In the interest of time, we're going to look at one case, Miss Naika Venant. Because 2 years ago, when I was still a general pediatrician, I quit my job to examine exactly the answer to that question. And so Miss Naika is a 14-year-old female from Miami, Florida, who streamed her suicide live on Facebook only 3 weeks after, check this, another teen suicide for alleged sexual assault by a family member. Betrayal? Check. While Naika used a scarf, some kids will use other personal items like a belt or a jump rope, but most kids will use firearms, often found at home, like my neighbor's son did a few weeks ago in San Antonio. For 3 long hours, onlookers watched and laughed and egged Naika on. One of them was actually allegedly her own mother. The Miami Herald described her death as a lonely death. In their write-up, they questioned if Naika felt invisible most of her life. After all, she endured countless episodes of physical, sexual, emotional, and other traumas while in a system that at one point placed her in up to 16 different foster homes in the space of only 8 months. Perhaps she chose a Facebook Live because she finally wanted to be seen. Silence, shame, stigma, and a mix of raw emotions is the perfect recipe for the worst outcome of trauma during childhood. But there's hope. Yes, there's hope. Studies have shown that formerly suicidal youth who can find one single trusted adult in their lives will thrive. That sanctuary is what I offer my patients in my youth suicide prevention practice. And you too can do the same. Yes, you can be the one for the at-risk youth around you. And maybe you can join me in creating a youth suicide-free world by the year 2025. But that's around the corner. So we need to hurry. First thing to do, look for signs. They're everywhere. Remember 4 out of 5? The commonest signs are 1, asking questions, writing, talking about death. Most kids don't do that. Second sign, feelings of shame and hopelessness and worthlessness. Third sign, recklessness or a loss of interest in activities they once loved or just giving away their prized possessions. Second thing you can do, offer these kids empathy and compassion, not judgment and more medications. Third thing you can do, talk to them. And for me, talk stands for tuning in to the right radio frequency of your child, AKA know your kid. Secondly, ask the right questions. What's happening? What happened? Never ask why. And I know you're going to say this. Asking questions about suicide does not make somebody become suicidal. If anything at all, the child will feel like you care about them. And so I permit you to ask the right questions. And if you're going to ask questions, you might as well listen. And so I recommend you lean in, lead from the heart, close the space, and just listen. And of course, keep communication lines wide open as you get them effective help. Because you know one thing that happened in November of 2015, that day could have ended very, very badly for me. But I decided to make some changes in my life. Here's the thing though, I'm an adult. I can make changes in my life. Most kids cannot. And that's where you come in. And so the first thing I did was analyze my situation. And I realized that my antidepressants were making me worse. And the second thing I did was I realized that my voice is the loudest voice in my head. And the things I was saying to myself were not good. Needless to say, I've since changed the way I speak to myself. And the third thing I got myself effective help. And by the help and support and love of my family members and friends, and numero tres, even if we have to carry him along, I can proudly say that I am so thriving, like my friend Dee Lamar would say. And I do the exact same thing for my patients. The first thing we do is analyze their thoughts, their traumas. Yes, we literally name them one by one. And the second thing we do is uncover their triggers. Let me tell you something about triggers. They're usually within 100 to 200 square feet from where the child is standing. And so you, my friend, might be a trigger. And the third thing we do is help them control the negative thoughts in their head by teaching them how to acknowledge the thoughts, analyze the thoughts for veracity, and then act based on the analysis. And knock on wood, my patients today are all so thriving. And so do me a huge favor. Next time you hear about suicide in a child, I want you to think of 3 words: trauma, trauma, trauma. Always look for underlying factors. Always ask the right questions. Avoid jumping to a diagnosis of mental illness or giving medications, because you know what? If a child is being serially raped by her uncle or being cyberbullied by their friends, they're not mentally ill. They are being traumatized.
That's right.
And so in ending, I'm going to give you my original quote. A suicide attempt is never a cry for attention. It is always a cry for help. And so I'm going to ask you to please rise and join me in observing 20 more seconds of silence in honor of these people we keep losing every single day to suicide, beginning.
Boom, right there. All right. So thank you so much for watching. Let me hope I can do this correctly. There. So childhood trauma. First of all, can a sister get a round of applause for that TED Talk, honey? I know I can't hear y'all, but I believe you'll give me some virtual rounds of applause back there, because that was good. Okay. And I was looking good too. So let's look at a little bit of childhood trauma. Like I as you know, I'm a physician, like literally 30 years of being a doctor. But I believe in my heart that childhood trauma, like the research said, is at the crux of most medical illnesses, including suicide. So I had asked my friend Ree to share the ACE questionnaire, but she couldn't. So I just did some cropping and some magic today. And these are the questions that we ask for ACEs. If you're a parent and you take your child to see the doctor for a physical, I want you to tell your doctor that Dr. Lulu said to do an ACE questionnaire on your child. When you go to the doctor, you can also ask the same, because believe it or not, numbers increase, and from a score of 4 and up, you have 1,220% chance of chronic medical illnesses, including mental illnesses and suicide, for a score of 4 or more. Just 4. Did a parent or other adult in your house often push, grab, slap, or throw things at you? What? If you're Nigerian or you're Mexican, that's it right there with the chancla. Did you often feel that you didn't have enough to eat, had to wear dirty clothes, had no one to protect you? Those are questions like that. Were your parents ever separated or divorced? That's my kids. Were any of your parents or other adult caregivers often pushed or grabbed? That's me, my kids again, you know? So before you know it, you're already scoring 7 and 8 and 9 and 10, and you already know that 4 or more is what we're looking for. So you're welcome to Google ACEs and just try to do your own homework and look at your own scores. So why do queer kids become suicidal? Why? What's up with that? So this is from www.one.nyc.gov. So it says right there that being LGBT alone does not put a young person at higher risk for suicide. No, it is the discrimination, the rejection, the fear, the harassment, all that. That's what makes the child say, you know what? I don't like this world that I'm in. If you were that person, you would do the same. So be very careful when you say, well, not you, but when you hear people say or insinuate that because the child is gay or because the child is queer, that's why they are suicidal. No, your child is okay. You, on the other hand, you might need to see me. So it's a perfect storm of childhood trauma, AKA rejection, betrayal by parents, bullying by peers, and The child himself starts having intrusive thoughts, like we said in the TED Talk. They start having negative self-image. They start having negative self-talk. Because if anybody tells you long enough that you're stupid, you're going to start thinking you are stupid. So yes, the reasons are threefold. Yourself, thinking negative thoughts about yourself, LGBT or not really, as a matter of fact. Family who rejects you is a major problem, y'all. And society like Texas, where we have rules in the legislature trying to erase human beings for who they are, Oh my goodness. And so for the non-binary and transgender youth, more than half of these youth seriously consider suicide in the past 12 months. Don't ask me for thoughts and prayers. Protect your child first. Then we don't have to get there. Respect the pronouns, people. If somebody says that they, them, she, her, whatever they say, just respect it. It really, truly costs you 0 red cents. If somebody changes their name to Biscuit, call them Biscuit. It doesn't take anything. My own parents call me Dr. Lulu. They didn't name me Dr. Lulu, but that's what I want to be called. It really, truly doesn't take anything out of you. Affirming spaces decrease suicide rates. Conversion therapy increases suicide attempts. Yes, I said it. Es verdad. So what can you do? We should all be allies, period. That's it. Including parents like me who are also in the queer space. So who is an ally? You. Everyone is an ally. First of all, you chose to come here today. You're an ally. You could have been doing anything with your time. It's Friday, but you are here. Anybody who advocates for or supports a marginalized person is an ally. Any person or nation that associates with another for some common cause or purpose is an ally. My best description is not here. It's the one that says that you are supporting somebody without necessarily being part of the group. Oh yeah, okay, that's the second one, yes. But is not a member of the group, that one. That's my thing right there. That's the ally right there. And truly, it doesn't cost you nothing. So next time you see that flag, you know that that's your flag. That's the ally flag. And what's an ally? Always center the impact. I like that. Listen and learn from those who live in oppression. Leverage your privilege. If you're not in the queer space, you don't know what it's like to be in the queer space, trust me. And yield the floor, AKA allow them to be who they are. So I already talked about what talk is to me. Tune in to your child. Listen with 2 ears. Ask the right questions with the one mouth. Listen again fully without judgment. Don't say, I know what you're feeling like. You don't know what I feel like. Truly, you don't. Keep communication lines open. Allow them to come in. Open the heart space so that they will come in. And so if you don't mind my asking, please use the comment section to tell me what else can you do? Because I'm sure talk is not exclusive. And Ree, if you could just read the comments and let me know what are people saying about what else we can do when it comes to being an ally or trying to help these people as I take a sip of my gin and juice.
Are you okay if they also unmute and just share with their voices?
Yes, ma'am. I just can't see people. I don't know the technology. If I do that, I won't be able to come back where I am. So, but yes, ma'am, I can. Absolutely. Let's do it. I don't know how much more time I have, but I'm almost done with my talk. So it doesn't really matter anymore.
You have 18 minutes, so you're fine on time.
Plenty of time. Very good. I'll take my time then. So anybody wants to unmute themselves, please feel free. Otherwise, we'll keep going. I mean, who else says we can hear you when you type? Oh, Rhea, I'm sorry. So somebody said something here. Let me see. Reminder, something said or shown can be triggering. Please practice self-care during. Yes, that is so true. That is so true. Compassion fatigue is a thing. And honestly, saving somebody from suicide is a very, very emotional thing. It weighs heavily on you. So you probably need to get therapy for that. Does anybody want to take a jab at what I was saying, that's telling us what else we can do as allies to help? But yeah, so talk is my personal mnemonic that I came up with. Y'all can have it. And I came up with talk because the American Foundation for Suicide Prevention actually uses Talk Save Lives as one of their hashtags and Silence Kills as the other hashtag. So I figured, what can I come up with talk? Because talk saves lives. Speak up to help educate others who may have misconceptions about those. Yeah! I love that. I love that. Speak up to help others who are, yes. And actually my next book, believe it or not, that's bio I have to just confess, is a little old. I'm actually working on my 5th and 6th books. And the 5th book is called Myths, Mistakes, and Misconceptions About Your LGBTQ plus child. So stand by for that. It should drop by October, which is next month. Yikes! Oh my goodness. Okay, I don't know if it's going to drop by October, but I love the talk acronym. That's powerful. Thank you so much. So don't be shy. If you want to unmute yourself, just do that. In the meantime, we'll keep going. I know that there's a lot more things you can do. You can actually stay with them. If someone is actively suicidal, you can literally stay with them and just say nothing. Studies have shown that people who are actively suicidal really, truly are ambivalent about dying. In other words, they don't really want to die. And then again, they want to die. So just you being there and just holding space for them, just hugging them, saying nothing if you have nothing, if you don't know what to say. A lot of times it's enough. You can even ask them, do you want me to say anything? And a lot of times they just want you to stay there. If you're on the phone with them, they'll keep them talking. I had a mom who lost a patient, who lost a child, or actually it was a sister-in-law, to suicide. She was actively talking to her on the phone, but she might have said something, the wrong thing, I don't know. But the lady, did what she had to do at that point. So keep them talking is what they said. And then take them to the doctor, take them to the hospital. And as much as possible, don't tell them, well, you need to go see someone. Or you know what, you shouldn't be feeling like killing yourself. You've got 3 cars or you've got 2 kids. When I was actively suicidal, when I was driving down that highway that day, I had all those things. But thankfully, my spouse was like, not on my watch. And what she did was cancel all of her appointments and stayed with me for the whole week. And then we went to Austin, then we went to the Chinese garden to look at the koi fish or whatever, went to the zoo. We left the house and I was able to leave that space because a lot of times when it actually happens, people, the feeling does wane. The feeling actually wanes. Like if you feel like you want to kill yourself, after a while, it does wane. So in summary, we looked at suicide rates, the fact that suicide is the second leading cause of death for kids aged 10 through 34. 10 through 34. That's a lot of kids. I'm going to tell you something at this point. The youngest recorded child that died by suicide was 5. They were not necessarily LGBT, I don't know, but that child was 5. And please notice how I said they were not necessarily LGBT. One of the things that we tell people to do is if you don't know somebody's pronoun, it's okay to use they, them. And yes, they, them can be used for singular. You know why I said that? If you're walking down the hallway or you're walking down the street and you see somebody's cell phone, what are you going to say? Oh, someone lost their cell phone, right? Yes. Someone lost their cell phone is what you're going to say. So we have been doing this thing. We've been doing this a lot. We've been using they, them a lot. However, I completely understand that it's a hard thing to kind of get around. My own child, I still struggle sometimes with he, because for 23 years I was using he, him. But they are giving me a break for knowing that it's not as easy. But I am not saying, oh, I'm not going to use it. I'm not going to, what do you mean? No, what I'm saying is I'm leaning in. I'm like, if that's what you want, give me some time. I give myself some time and we're going to get there. 42% of kids in the LGBTQ plus space seriously considered suicide in the last 12 months. Who can tell me in the chat why you think in the last 12 months in particular, why do you think this many children considered jumping, which is what I like to say instead? Let me see. What is that? Let me see.
My comment was from before your question, Dr. Lulu. I don't pretend to know why a child would want to complete a suicide. This is why I try to educate myself in a lot of this because I don't know. But I do know that a lot of the youth that I come in contact with, honestly, don't feel heard and or understood because they're not heard. And it is so easy to close your one mouth and open your 2 ears and keep your probably biased opinions to yourself. And I just speak for myself, but I speak to everyone out there. In my mind's eyes, an advocate is very similar to when someone shares about a sexual assault. the very last thing you want to do is open your mouth and say the wrong thing. It's almost better to just listen, because what can you say that will change it, undo it, or make it better? So I feel like when you're in a place of ignorance, because you just don't know what they're going to say, maybe it's better to just listen and let them talk. And then hopefully they can feel heard, at least maybe for the first time in their life. That's my guess.
And that's the power of coaching. A coach never does most of the talking. Most people just want a space where they can just vent and feel heard, and doing active listening. So just so I can understand you correctly, such and such and such, you know? And rather than saying, why do you want to kill yourself? Remember what I said, say, what happened? Because usually something happened. That's why suicides are usually a surprise, right? I just saw them last week and they were doing just fine. Yes, that's the problem. They were not doing so fine. But how are you doing? I'm fine. Because truly, how much time do you have? We looked at the ACEs. Sorry, was someone saying something?
Oh, yeah, Dr. Lulu, I was also going to add, I totally agreed with Ray. And also, I'm Mexican, and I know in the Hispanic community, we don't really talk about the LGBTQ and their sexual preferences. There's still so much stigma around it. So helping normalize these conversations. I know my dad still struggles very much with understanding gay love and queer folk. And so I think just helping have these conversations, even though es muy difícil, we have to try.
Es verdad, pero no es más difícil que no podemos. You know what I mean?
Claro que sí.
So no es más difícil que no podemos. Necesitamos tratar.
Sí.
And the beautiful thing about tratar is you're leaning in, and your brain will get it. Your subconscious will say, you know what? Okay, I give in, because you're going to insist in the conscious. Pero es verdad. That's why I love that Magdie's, and I don't know if you saw the clip of the CBS this morning. That's why I love that Magdie's parents were in there, and Magdie's mom spoke Spanish. It was important to me that people know that even las personas que están hispanos, hispánicos, I'm not sure what the word is, also do accept their kids. And did you notice how their dad said they had an older child or another child who was also in the queer space? A lot of the parents in my Facebook group have multiple children in the queer space. Many of them have more than one child. And one of the things that people are saying is that the really, really intense homophobes out there have a secret. They're also queer. And their problem is, how dare you live your lives out loud? Es verdad. I didn't make it up. Look up every single thing I tell you. Please Google it and find out that it's true. Studies have shown. In the Washington Post, one of the times I wrote an article for the Post, the next article after mine was that many homophobes are actually closeted gays themselves. Pero por qué? So why are these kids suiciding? And by the way, words do matter. So we don't say commit. You will never hear me say commit suicide. You will always hear me say suicide as a verb. So people, why LGBT kids, suicide is a word, because suicide can be a verb and a noun, actually. Okay, so suicided is past tense. So you can say that. You can say died by suicide. You can say killed themselves. You can say completed is not quite as accepted anymore, but it's still better than committed. So you can still say completed. We don't say successful attempt, because there's nothing successful about that. We don't say failed attempt, because there's nothing failure. We just don't want to even invite that, if that makes any sense. All right. Then what you can do to help, become an ally. I mean, it's really, truly not very difficult to be an ally. Just tell yourself you're going to be an ally and talk. You are welcome to talk. And there's something called the OK app. I don't know if I have that on this talk. Oh, maybe I forgot to put that slide. Okay, we'll talk about that later on. So this is how to reach me. You can take a screenshot if you like. I think Rhea also posted in the comment section how to reach me also, but I thought I put that here. Okay, there it is. Yeah, the Not Okay app. Very good. So all those resources, the Trevor Project is one that's near and dear to my heart. That's their toll-free number there. They take care of LGBTQ+ youth and their loved ones. The the crisis text line, especially for the young ones who don't want to talk. And maybe you just don't want to talk. You just want to text 741. Literally, if you text anything, any combination of letters to 741, you will get a response. It's like calling 911. You can text start. I usually recommend to text help or text start. You can text Stephen. You can text home. So home and help are my two favorite ones that I like people to text. You can text talk. You can text anything to 741. There's an international hotline, but I forgot to add it. But this is the main hotline, 1-800-SUICIDE or 1-800-273-TALK, which is where I got my talk from. And the Not Okay app is such a cool app. So questions, anybody, everybody, thank you so much for the opportunity. As you can tell, I love to talk about this stuff. And I could literally, it took me everything to not add more slides. I was like, what can I take out and what can I add? So thank you so much for the opportunity. I really appreciate it. My time is done. Don't forget to be kind and compassionate. Muchísimas gracias. So I'll take questions.
I have a question while folks are sending their praises and thank yous. What are all these languages you speak, my new friend? I am dying to know. I'm so intrigued as a language lover.
For the numbers, let me see. I was just looking at the comments. They said that I should put the number. Oh Lord, I told y'all, don't give me this thing. I would not know what to do. I'll put the thing back.
It's okay. I could share the numbers. Hang on one second.
I think okay. Is it this one with the numbers? The 273 talk.
Yeah, there you go.
I wish it was this one you were talking about.
They have that in the chat already.
I left my phone number out. So my phone number is 802-768-1180. Yes, that is my cell phone number. I deal with people who are in an emergent or urgent place, so I don't care giving up my cell phone. So 802-768-1183. Please put it 1180. Please put it in the chat for me, my darling friend. But yes, so I speak. Yes. So Nigeria has, I don't know how many languages. My mom is like more than 300 languages, and I speak 5 of those. And most people don't realize that English is not my mother tongue. So English is one of my foreign languages that I speak. I speak it well, but it's a foreign language. I speak French, oui, je parle français, and I speak Spanish. So the other 5 are Nigerian languages. Igbo, Hausa, Yoruba, Efik, yes, all of those languages I speak fairly fluently. I love to be able to communicate, and I know that if you speak my language, you are a friend in all of your work. Thank you so much. Yes, 741. Yes. Thank you so much. Oh, thank you so much, everyone. I really appreciate it. So here's the thing. Here's your homework, okay? When next you're thinking about a speaker, whether it's empowerment of youth or empowerment of women or immigrant health or trauma in children, youth suicide, LGBTQ plus affairs, think about me, will you? Think about me. I think it's important to have what they call representation, right? So when people see people like them, it makes a difference. It makes a difference. Like I said at the beginning, I'm the one face from the motherland that's doing this work. They're supporting her child. I shouldn't be the only one. You should have other people. But it is what it is. So if you have a speaking engagement, just think about me. I'll give you a good deal. Wink, wink. All right, Ree, my friend, thank you so much for the opportunity. I could talk forever. Every good thing must come to an end. All right, folks.
Correct. Thank you so much, Dr. Lulu. Go ahead, Dr. Ratliff.
No, I was just going to say, Dr. Lulu, thank you so much on behalf of the Active Minds chapter here at APUS. And thank you for the expertise as a mental health professional. I know that this is such a huge, important topic and really love the highlighting of LGBTQ plus specifically today. So thank you so much for bringing